Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vision Henderson County Alumni Update. I'm Bob Williford with the Henderson County Chamber of Commerce, and with me today, this evening, we have Steve Orr, the chairman of the Vision Alumni Association, and the Vision Executive Director, Ruth Burge.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
And what we're going to do today is kind of give you an update on what we're looking for in the year 2021, what our plans are. And this is our first thing to give you the virtual update and forecast for 2021. And Steve, you're first.
Thank you. So we want to thank everyone who has joined us and hopefully is able to get out and enjoy the spring weather. The big thing is that Ruth and Bob and I talk a lot about, and I think we also get questions, guys chime in, but why is Vision Alumni Advisory Council important? What does it do? How does it actually help? And maybe how does it hinder?
Right.
Sometimes. So that being said, one of the big things I think that comes out is the networking. And I think for me, graduating in 2010, it was the fact that when you were out and if you're active socially, even civically, or even in your church, you're going to run into people who have or been or will be in Vision, and that networking allows you to do a lot of different things. So I don't know, similar experience. Obviously, community engagement is another big thing. I don't know what people expect when they start Vision, but I think when they come out of Vision, they understand how important it is to not be on a screen, but to be in front of somebody. And unfortunately, we've lost some of that. Yeah. That's why we're doing this, is because we don't have that true interaction. And I think that's a big part of what Vision, especially the alumni side of it, is, because you're in class once a month, you get the opportunity to do those things, but then, okay, it's done, it's over with. It's like graduating from high school, college, whatever. You're done, so how do you keep yourself active? And so we want Vision alumni to be that, is what I would say on that. The other situation is, I think it's interesting, we've done Vision 2.
We have, yes.
And see, Vision 2 is the way that we're able to keep people engaged, as well as the shared knowledge that you gain. And I don't know, for me, it's always been interesting to listen to Ruth and what she talks about the new program is for each year, because that program and what they're looking at, sometimes it changes. The new manufacturers, the new businesses, even when we have elections, we're going to have different elected officials who have different philosophies and different ideas of how they see the county, the municipalities that they operate in. I know, Ruth, you spend a lot of time with these people, and so I think it's interesting that there are those changes, and then when you take somebody who was in the program 5 years ago and they want to come back, and wasn't it fairly successful?
It was. We brought people back to show them what had happened within like the last 5 to 10 years. There were new manufacturers, there were new elected officials, there were new things to see. And we've done that a couple of times, but we're not doing it this spring just because of this. So, yeah, that's on the horizon.
But that's important, though,
Sure.
and it's something that people I don't think really understand as much as what we do. And the do part is, there's a lot of people that want to be able to participate in alumni, and I think, and my philosophy has been, you're trying to take the community, the businesses, you're trying to bring all that together to create a fabric and a network that people can use to advance the community, advance organizations and causes. Some of those causes, we don't want to get political, so we don't get involved with that. And I have no problem saying that, because I think people say, well, why aren't you taking up a banner of something or something? And our point is, we're here for everybody. We're not going to take a position where it creates some friction that's unneeded for our program. My own personal thought, and I would like to hear yours, is what is the most important part of the Vision alumni program? And to me, it's the leadership that we are providing through the education that the students or participants get, because it's the advancement of Henderson County as a whole. And unfortunately, we've gotten into some fractures as it relates to various topics in the county. Transportation always comes up, and that's something that's important. I think the other thing has been when we're dealing with growth, and so some of that you really need knowledge and you need to understand what some of that is. So that's where I see as far as the importance. I don't know if you have anything to chime in, but that's the way I've always looked at it, and what I've tried to project is, hey, you're done with the class doesn't mean you're done with vision.
Right.
There's more to do.
Well, and we were talking earlier that it was the mid-1980s when Vision started.
Yes.
Through UNC Asheville. And it was 96, 97 was the first time that it came back to Blue Ridge Community College and the Chamber, and we did a total local program. So you look at how many years we've done that and how many people have been in those classes. And I think the Vision alumni mailing list we have now has over 500 people, but there must be 1,000 Vision alumni out there.
When you think about the number of people that are in those classes, and it goes from, like 25 when John first started, and we've had as many as 42 during my tenure.
Well, and you remember the years where we had the split classes.
Oh, yeah,
we
did. Oh, that's right. Yes,
versions,
exactly. Lots of history there.
Yeah.
but think about it. All those people have had the training, they've got the interest. And some of them have gone on to become elected officials.
Sure.
Some have gone on to volunteer in different capacities on different boards, the Chamber Board and others. But there are a lot who've gone back to work and not gotten plugged in or not had that opportunity. So I think one of the critical roles the Vision Alumni Association plays is we bring those issues to the alumni. We provide educational opportunities. Right. And along with that, we show them opportunities where they can get involved and where they can plug in and they can give back. So I think that's one of the key issues, at least from my standpoint, is how do we keep those folks engaged and how do we make it easy for them to identify and get involved in addressing some of our community's issues. But you're absolutely right. There are a lot of complicated issues that our community is dealing with. And being able to understand all sides of those issues is really important.
In my opinion, networking, because you're networking across classes. It's not just those 20 or 30 people that you were in class with, but it's everybody who's been there. So it's the continued networking that is incredibly important in this community as it is in all communities.
So we've got networking, we've got involvement, we've got education,
Yeah.
and then we've got other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're also, part of it is the meetings, unfortunately, why we're doing this and what we're trying to project. Those meetings have become very important. Unfortunately, we haven't had them since, gosh, when was our last meeting that we had?
2019.
2019, yeah, we had a leadership meeting in 2019.
Yeah, and so, I mean, part of it is we've got to reimagine what we're going to do. And that's part of what we're trying to do with this discussion is help people understand kind of what that is. And
well, there's one other thing that we do that I was trying to get to, but the John Boyd Scholarship.
Oh, the tuition assistance. Oh, absolutely.
So for years, what the Alumni Association did was we would run events and generate a little extra revenue. And what we did with that revenue is provided tuition assistance for people who couldn't afford the leadership class. And how we do that is we pay half tuition. So it's somebody still has to pay to participate and have that buy-in, the skin in the game, but we're willing to pay half. And I think it was John's last class knew that we did that, and they decided they wanted to create the John Boyd Tuition Assistance Fund through the Community Foundation, and they I guess they did some fundraising during their year. That was their class project, and raised I think it was $7,000 or $8,000. And then they communicated that with us, and what we did is we started running our programs where if the program was profitable, we could use that money to pay tuition assistance for people who needed it that year. Then all of the additional funds that were raised would go into the endowment, the John Boyd Endowment, until such time it became self-sustaining, where it could pay that tuition assistance and not need any more outside funding. So we did some raffles and some other fundraisers at events. And now I think that fund is over $20,000.
It
I
is.
think we need $25,000 for it to be self-sustaining. So we're almost there. And the big question is going to be is once we are there, then when we have a little revenue left over after meetings, what's the next project
Right.
we
What
want
are we
to
going to
take
do
on?
with it? Exactly. Yeah. What can we do to benefit the students and this organization?
Right. And typically, what do we have? 5 to 6 people that receive tuition assistance each year.
Yeah. Depends. But
That's-
normally we can do at least 5.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that I think we also, when we do those things, that's part of the people who are also wanting to be, I guess, involved in the community too. And we want that because that helps
Yes.
with the perpetuation of the goals of what Vision was set out to do, and help in keeping up with the local things that are going on. And I know, Bob, you are big on that, as well as Ruth, about making sure we stay focused on what's the most important things happening.
Yes.
And we kind of try to do that this year. Unfortunately, what we had planned for 2020 has obviously gone awry. And I'll circle back around on the John Boyd thing. One of the things was we did so well at the meetings because people were generous and
Yes.
they wanted to help. And so we've kind of lagged behind, and that's something that we need to work to help bolster
We do.
whenever we can get back in person.
Sure.
And I think we also need to recognize Kimberly Clark.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Kimberly Clark
Yes.
sponsors all the events we do
do.
each year.
Yeah.
They're big supporters of leadership. And because of their support, typically when we have a meeting, there is some revenue
Yeah.
at the end of the day, which we can either put in the endowment or provide that immediate tuition assistance.
Right.
And we'll see what comes next.
One of the other things that I didn't know, and I don't know if it's a little, off of what we're kind of proceeding with, but I don't know if people truly understand the relationship between what Blue Ridge brings to the table and what Henderson County Chamber of Commerce brings to the table in making these things happen. Like, we're at the studio of Blue Ridge Community College right now. Great studio. It gives us the ability to do what we're doing, but also the chamber helps with keep us focused too.
Oh, absolutely.
And some of those things. And I know that that has helped a lot of people understand that, this isn't just one organization kind of handling or doing. It's a collective effort, which is basically the promise of the program is you learn how to collaborate.
Exactly.
And so, Ruth, tell us a little bit about the class now,
Sure.
what's happened in the past, the representatives and stuff.
Well, first of all, to be a Vision alumni, you just have to have successfully completed a Vision class. So Bob stated that there's 500 on the mailing list now, but I'll bet you there's double or more of those people out there. So there's literally hundreds of Vision graduates. Every class, we select representatives to come to the advisory council. In years past, there's been one, sometimes there's two because of the popularity or the involvement, I will use that, of the representatives. And what they do is when we're normal, Steve, if I may use that, although that seems
new
very
normal.
strange, it's
The
new
new
normal,
normal.
it's a reset as far as I'm concerned. What we'll do is we'll come back and those representatives will be invited to every other month. We meet, we talk about what we need to be doing, what's going on, what do we need to have for the next program, who should be there, do you know that person, could you call on them? And people, and there's a lot of different industries and businesses that are represented, and so it's whatever's going on with them as well. So it gets to be a really wide array of things that are going on in the community that we can talk about. So as a representative of your class, if you will, you come to meetings and then we make decisions based on the information that they bring and the resources that they have. And some of the people that you would probably, let me see, I've got some people here that you'd recognize. Darlene Doss, Sheila Grapes, Keith Summey, Chris Scoggins, Brian Bird, Laura Rice. Those are just a few of the ones in the last 2 or 3 years. So there's a long, long list of people who come and participate. in that. Oh, Jessica Cipriano's on her way back, so we'll get to
Oh, is
we'll
she?
get to get her
Yes.
again too.
Oh.
So that'll be cool. Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah.
there's all kinds of people out there who we call on to help us get to these things that are important.
Yeah, and I think it's also important for people to understand too, we rely on their feedback.
Absolutely.
Because we're not here as a oligarchy to
Nope.
make decisions. It's more about what does the community want, what do the alumni want,
Right.
and we strongly encourage. I know we've tried, and again, it sounds cliche and excuse, but we're trying to do that with some of the things that are important
Sure.
as we relate to the different things going on. So, I guess the best way to start our positive part of this about what's the future is for 2021. And so there are some things that we brought forward, I think, when we were looking at what we needed to do that were still relevant and very important. And I think one of those is that we're going to do in person if we can, but we're also going to do hybrid because we want people to feel safe and we want them to participate. So participation to us, I think you all would agree, is either, yeah, you're going to be here, or if you're going to be able to get on and get the Zoom or Facebook, however we do it, please do it because we need that participation and we need that feedback. I think one thing that, as having a parent, as I am with 2 children in school, I think something that's going to be our first event, which will be in the spring, is going to be the Leader in Me with the Henderson County Education Foundation. And I think we all admit when we did our crisis, I guess you would call leadership
Yes.
Right.
topic, Steve, Dr. Bryant was very good in his explanation of what the school system's going through.
And we do have that listed for the spring.
Yeah.
Now, spring is very flexible during pandemic
Yeah,
times.
right. Well, that's
we-
right.
We'll
COVID makes
try to
everything-
push it, to hopefully be a hybrid meeting. We are looking forward to getting some in-person opportunities out there, but we will do it in a safe and responsible manner. But that is the first program scheduled.
Yeah.
So we'll have to
Subject to change.
Yes.
Sure.
We'll have to see what
Unfortunately.
the restrictions are at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And the idea is to have the Education Foundation,
Yeah.
which is kind of the key organization in bringing Leader in Me to the schools. And by the way, Leader in Me is a Covey leadership training program that's been adapted for use in the school system.
Wonderful.
So that
And how many schools?
students can benefit from that training. I think half of the elementary schools
Yeah.
have Leader in Me.
But there are a
and
total
one,
of 10?
one high school and one middle school.
Right. Correct.
So I believe that's 10
10.
altogether.
Yeah.
And it seems to grow every year.
Yeah.
But it is a bottom-up program. The teachers and the staff needs to buy in and want it.
Yep.
The Education Foundation has helped fund a lot of these startup Leader in Me programs to get into the schools. And it offers a great opportunity for leadership training, and it includes a lot of soft skills training for students in those elementary, middle, and high schools.
Well, and I think the other part of it is from the chamber's perspective, and your business leaders say we need people with soft skills.
Oh boy. Yes. Absolutely.
And so if we can start at 5th grade level
Right.
or younger, then I think that's a benefit to the community. And again, that's a reason why as Vision alumni, you want to
Right.
pay it forward, think forward, and focus on the future as part of our mantra, from that. So in the summer, we're going to talk about, again, all relative, as Bob says, to agriculture and agribusiness.
Oh, yes.
And so part of that is the fun part, which is the vintners and their programs, and also the, what's the
Crest of the Blue Ridge.
That's right.
Crest of
It's
the Blue
the
Ridge.
American
Viticulture area.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's easy for you to say.
Easy for me to say. I wrote
Well,
it down.
she's a newspaper editor. She's used to dealing with that. But that's a program that actually we're bringing forward too, because we think it's very important. And you think about what's going on in Mills River. You think about everything, obviously, that's going on with our
And
winemaking?
Potentially there could be wine tasting at the
Really?
summer event. Yes,
Really?
it is.
So are you in charge of
So,
that?
so that can't be
Somebody
virtual,
is.
right?
No, I don't
Well,
know.
you can.
Well, you could do virtual.
That's
Okay,
your
yeah.
own one.
Well, the
Exactly.
Blue Ridge did that, right?
They-
Well,
yes.
They did.
How'd
They
that
did
go,
the virtual
Bob?
It was a beer
thing.
tasting.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, how'd it
excellent.
go, Bob?
I only had one because they were like this big.
Oh, well, you had the whole one yourself?
No, I shared it.
Oh, okay.
I was
Okay.
responsible.
Well, I'm going to barge in because I'm thinking that if we can get to do that in person, and we could go to, I think we were looking at St. Paul's,
Yeah.
where we could talk with not only Alan Ward but also with Mark
Williams.
Williams,
Yeah.
who runs Ag HC. We could talk about all kinds of things there. And I've got to go on. Please forgive me.
Go.
When I talk about Henderson
Go,
County wine, I
go.
get really
Right.
excited. The reason that we got that was the soil. Okay, the elevation that we are at, and the elevation that they plant the grapes on, and our atmosphere, the fact that we don't have really hot summers and really cold winters, and so I read all about the American viticulture areas, and it's called Crest of the Blue Ridge, and it's a
Viticultural.
viticultural area. So
I've got
it's a really cool thing, and if we could go out there and taste wine and have Alan tell us about why he plants things on certain hills and how that works out, that'd be very
It
very
amazes
cool.
me the whole agribusiness industry.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the variety of things going on in Henderson
Well-
County, from wine to
Yeah.
apples, to
Apples,
sod,
and
to-
cider, and the whole thing.
Yes.
Blue Ridge is actually going to start a new class based on this American viticulture area through about wines. So
So wine
it
tasting
just
class.
keeps going around and around. Wine classes, exactly.
tasting classes,
The
yeah.
wine classes. I like it. So yeah,
Yeah.
very. I'm sorry, I barged in.
No,
Forgive
no.
me. I get excited about wine.
No, that's what, we're trying
So
to.
what should we do in the fall, Steve?
Well, I'm the one that gets to play Eeyore and bring up the boring topics. But as it stands right now, what we're thinking about is, again, and we saw it in the news recently, transportation and planning and how it's going to affect Western North Carolina, specifically Henderson County,
Yep.
the projects that have all been pushed back now.
Yep.
I think if you've seen some of those new dates, we're looking at 3 to 5 years from now. And so I think it's going to be interesting to, hopefully we'll get Chuck McGrady, who's on the North Carolina Department of Transportation Committee, Council,
He's our board member.
He's our
Board
board
member.
member.
Yeah.
too.
Board member.
for our
Okay.
division.
Yeah.
for the division. And then we'll also try to get some NCDOT officials to participate, because I think what's interesting, not to bring up a hot topic, but let's talk about, again, situation in East Flat Rock. That's been in the news again. We just had the Cedars project get approved.
Right.
There's
Right.
all sorts of things going on in Henderson County. And the first thing, as I was recently the former chairman of the City of Hendersonville Planning Board, one of the first things that people bring up is, well, there's
Traffic.
more cars, there's more people, blah, blah, and it
Yeah.
just keeps, and it's
does.
all related around infrastructure, but predominantly transportation. But then the other part of what we've talked about is, okay, now we're looking at these, how do I want to say it, projected figures of manufacturers saying, I'm going to produce an electric vehicle or all electric vehicles. Well, Bob's better versed on this than I am, but when you look at the revenues for transportation, most of that comes from,
Gas tax.
Fuel
That's
tanks. Yep.
and so I think that would be interesting for Chuck, because he has very much have a lot of forward thoughts and vision to be able to say, here's what I think is going to have to happen. But it's just not here, it's nationally. And so as people move here, I think it's interesting because they don't understand the dynamics of currently what's going on. And as we get more population growth, this becomes that friction point that people want you to take sides on, and that's not what it's about. It's about information and planning. And
Right.
I think it's going to be interesting to try to do something like that. People say, it's transportation. I think it's more than that. I think it becomes emotional because you don't want to sit at a light, or you don't want the traffic in front of your house, or you feel like this has just gotten too congested. And unfortunately, you know, there's been ideas floated out there since, started with what? Going 96, John Lauder brought, what was that?
Oh, well, no, the first one I remember was the Clear Creek Connector.
Clear Creek Connector.
Okay,
Yes.
and that was
Yeah.
John Lauder and
Uh-huh.
that group when he was city commissioner, I think.
Yeah, he came up with Balfour Parkway.
Balfour
Yeah.
Parkway?
Yes.
Okay, so all of those things,
Right.
we're talking, what, 24 years ago?
Yeah.
25
Oh,
years
a while
ago?
back.
Yeah, yeah.
That we've been talking about this.
Exactly.
And so I think it's important that people understand the dynamics, and there's a whole mundane but very interesting and very important way that projects are handled.
Yeah.
So that's what we hope
And
to.
it is critical because the community continues to grow.
Yeah.
It does.
And if we want to benefit from growth, we've got to keep up with the infrastructure.
Exactly.
And that's roads, that's sewer, water,
Water,
parks, I mean, all the infrastructure.
greenways, yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and it's harder if we get behind, but if we can stay ahead of it, it's going to be a whole lot better.
But the dynamics of the revenue. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
revenue
Well,
stream that's
yeah.
tied to what North Carolina can do and not do. And that's, so.
I don't
that's
know the
what-
answer to that one.
No, well, you don't?
I don't.
You sure? But,
That's a toughie.
you know, that's what I think for our program as it stands right now. Unfortunately, we don't know, but let's keep our fingers crossed. I think we're, hopefully, as more people get vaccinated, we've got the vaccination going on
Oh,
today
gosh,
with
today.
Part E here at Blue Ridge Community College. So that's an all a positive. Encourage anybody
Sure.
to get vaccinated that can, because obviously we can get around that and get back to some more in-person meetings. I know we would rather be sitting with
Oh,
a
yeah.
group of
Oh, yes.
75 to 100 people announcing this and having a good time and being able to do what we've done in the past. But again, we'll see what the new normal is.
Exactly.
With that, is there anything you want to add, Bob, to
We're just
try to, for 2021, what we
Yeah.
want to try to hope for?
Well, I think I'd advise people to watch your emails. We're guessing May or June would be the spring meeting
Yeah.
for Leader and me. If you're not on the mailing list, do call us at the chamber. We can get you added very easily, and look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Yeah, and please come and join us. It's very important that you stay in touch with where you live.
Yeah, I agree, and I think from the alumni side, I think it's very important that you have that ability to reconnect or connect again with those that you may have moved away for a job, and know that you're welcome back if you've been gone 5 years or 15 years. That network is still there, and it's inclusive and wants to hear, because some of the ideas that you may have learned or gained in another place are beneficial here sometimes.
Absolutely.
So with that being said,
And you might even find some people in a different class that you'd like to
yeah.
meet,
Oh, absolutely.
or that might argue that theirs was the best
Oh,
class
no,
ever.
that's
So-
not true. Everybody's the best class ever.
Well, that's good. So with that, we will,
Great.
I guess, wrap it up if
Good.
Yes.
nothing else, and thank everybody for
yeah.
coming, and onward and upward with 2021.
Got it.
All right.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank
All right.
you.